Welcome back to the Tojo Dojo for another episode of Pig's Ear in Review. Myshtuff, joined by Riku Rose. How you doing today?
Good, thanks, mate. You?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just getting through the latest backlog of various games that are coming out, which I'll get to in the coming weeks. But today I'm going to be talking about one that was not on the radar that surprised me a bit, which is Marvel Midnight Suns.
hmm
And then, of course, we'll talk about the latest MCU movie. Wait, let me get the title right. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
His
The
titles.
Marvel filled episode.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, these titles don't keep getting longer. I just keep them short and sweet. Um,
hmm
but yeah, so if you haven't watched us before, we're talking about the stuff we've been playing and watching, and then, of course, like and subscribe, comment if you've played or watched any of the things that we've been talking about. All right, so I'll just get right into it with Marvel Midnight Suns. So I think I've told you on more than one occasion that I don't like turn-based games.
Yeah.
um,
You once looked me in the eyes and said, "I will never play a turn-based game in my life."
I'm pretty sure I've said something to that effect before. And so I think it is funny how you get like a preconceived notion about a game, maybe just from like an early bad experience or you just haven't played enough of them. And I think for me, turn-based games, I was just put off by them because of JRPGs, to be honest. And
Yeah,
like, I just can't play them that much. I mean, you tend to usually like those quite a bit, right?
yeah. I always find it weird though because like I'm not into anime,
Yeah.
but I love JRPGs.
Yeah.
But then you love anime,
No,
but
I
then
don't play
like, yeah.
JRPGs. Exactly.
I
It's a great
always say
compliment.
I describe myself as anime adjacent.
Yeah, sure.
Like I like a lot of things that people describe as very anime, like Ace Attorney, Kingdom Hearts, Final
Yeah.
Fantasy, but I never seem to like the actual anime itself.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know why. That's funny. Maybe I'll have to show you some good anime, some good recommendations that
You
might change
can't;
your
it
mind.
doesn't exist.
No, I will find one. That'll be another conversation. But anyways, JRPGs and turn-based games, yeah, are pretty much the reason why I never bothered trying those games for the longest time. But really, in the last couple years, that's my opinion has changed a little bit because Yakuza Like a Dragon was turn-based technically, even though most of the game was still like a typical Yakuza
Yeah,
game. But like the combat turned to turn-based, but they did it in like a funny or goofy kind of way. And then the South Park game that I talked about recently was the same thing. It's a turn-based game, but you're like obviously little kids and playing pretend and all that kind of goofy stuff. So once again, they did it in a fun way. So Marvel Midnight Suns, to be honest, I never would have even played it if it wasn't for the fact that I got a brand new, gaming computer, as you know, recently, and the purchase came with a free code for the game. I was even considering selling it for like, on eBay for $20 or something like that. But then I'm like, you know what? It's not worth the hassle. I don't
well, I
need to.
actually, when I bought the Xbox One on like
Uh-huh.
day one,
Hmm.
it came with like an achievement,
Hmm.
and that was it. All it was like an achievement to say like you got the Xbox on day one, and I sold it on eBay for like $30.
Yeah, dude, people buy that shit all the time. So, and I've done it before myself, but for whatever reason this time, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'll give it a shot. It's a free game that I haven't really bothered with looking into yet. I'll give it a shot. So I installed it, and I think I messaged you after the first day of playing it that I think something's changing with me.
My voice has got higher.
Yes, I'm becoming a man now. I can drink beer. Something in my life is changing, and
I
I
have a waifu.
yeah, I've always exact. Look, okay, my pillows in that closet. Don't worry about it. But I think I played maybe 4 or 5 hours just on a random day, and I was like, I think I like this game, which I just wasn't expecting. And to be
I
honest,
like you're saying it like it's an issue.
I know. Look, this is the first step of the process is admitting you have a problem.
I just love the idea that like your family sitting around and you go, "I've got a confession,"
This is
and
an intervention.
like grandma starts crying in the corner. He likes JRPGs now.
No, I thought I raised you better. Well, because
I
like,
have no son.
get out. I don't know you. Um, but like, I just It took me by surprise because even I think I asked you, and I think you said you had heard of the game, but you just, of course, hadn't gotten to it, right?
Yeah. I actually saw it, and from the very first trailer, I was like, a Marvel like XCOM type game actually
Yeah.
sounds pretty awesome. Like, but
Mhm.
the issue was it just came out at a really bad time where I had
Yeah.
like three other things to play, and you know how it is these days, where if you it feels like if you don't play it within the 6 months it comes out, it's like gone.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So, and what's funny too is because I had barely even heard of it for the most part, but then I wanted to look online, like, what's the reception to this game? And critically, it's getting awesome reviews, like pretty much across the board. But I found an article that the CEO of Take Two, who published the game, himself called this a commercial flop, like
yeah,
publicly,
yeah.
which, like, okay, he could have messed
It
with
didn't
that
do
better.
great, I don't think, because you didn't. I didn't
Yeah,
hear much about this game when it came out. There weren't a lot of
exactly.
marketing for it and stuff. You compare it to that like Avengers game that came out like two
Right.
years ago, and that
Hmm.
was like advertised everywhere.
Yeah, or even the Guardians of the Galaxy game, which I still haven't played yet, but like that got plenty of, I think, pretty good advertising. But yeah, this game,
That apparently didn't do very well either.
yeah, well, yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't sell well either. But even I've heard great. I know you told me about it that it was
Yeah.
worth playing. But anyways, this game once again just kind of came out of nowhere. But I'm like, all right, gonna keep playing it. And so what turned into that first day of 6 hours ultimately ended up. I think my final hour count as of now is 45 hours that I've put into the game.
Wow.
Yeah, which I think, if you recall last year, I was saying Elden Ring and Yakuza Like a Dragon are the two longest games I've ever played, like as far as like a single playthrough, in a campaign. And this probably is up there for like number three easily, maybe number four if I thought about it more. But yeah, I played the shit out of this game. So as of now, not only did I, of course, get the game for free, but then I bought the DLC season pass for it as well to get more stuff for it.
You're part of the problem.
Yes, this is my issue. I am supporting the problem, but I will say this developer did a good job. So I know. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll actually get to like talking about the game. So I will say, as far as the story goes, I would even say this is the best like on-screen Marvel story that I've seen in a while. Like I know the first era of MCU stuff, like people loved, and I mean, I think a lot of people had a good time with. But I would say this story rivals any one of those stories. I think they did a really cool story.
Wow. Okay. That's bold.
So, without obviously spoiling it, the main gist of it is this is gonna. I'm like saying what I'm about to say also makes it seem like I should like any other JRPG, but because it's Marvel for some reason, I think it's a little bit better. Which is
Mm.
you're at an academy of sorts, like a holding kind of area that this caretaker oversees. That's not. I shouldn't say it's an academy. It's like a housing for the Midnight Suns, which is this team, and you awaken as this old kind of hunter hero from like hundreds of years ago. You get brought back to life, and the story is that your mom Lilith is trying to bring back this demon, essentially,
Oh, hate
and
when that happens.
classic parent bringing back a demon story. We've all seen
Yeah.
it. And over these various missions, she gets more and more powerful, and of course, you have to stop her. But the cool part about it is it's a very like Scarlet Witch, like witchcraft kind of story, which like I know in WandaVision they sort of touched on that a little bit, and then obviously Scarlet Witch has been in a few movies, but I feel like they haven't really done a witchcraft magic cool kind of story. I guess like I know Doctor Strange has done like other dimensional stuff too, but
Mm.
I don't know. Like unless I'm just forgetting something, I just haven't seen a story like that in the MCU, to be honest. But over time, though, what you gather is that more characters that you know of from like Marvel start coming in and joining you. So like you start out with a couple that maybe people may not know of. Like I don't even think I recognized one of them, but you have like Ghost Rider. I think a lot of people
Hmm.
know who that is now. But you have
It's
like these
Nicolas Cage.
exactly exactly. What else? There's like some other like maybe lesser known X-Men characters, but then as you go on, you see people like Captain Marvel, Blade, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Venom. I mean Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, all, and then Hulk and
Mm.
stuff like that. So you do get those classic Marvel characters, but you get a few that maybe you haven't seen in a while. But once again, what's cool about this is it's not connected to the MCU or even the comics per se. I mean, it takes inspiration from them, but uh, they can have these interactions that we really haven't seen with the MCU yet. Maybe we will now that they're all coming together with Fox and Disney, kind of together. So maybe we'll get more X-Men stuff, but you can get to see those kinds of characters now. And I'll argue that one of the best parts of this game is you see Doctor Strange and Tony Stark arguing all the time, like an old married like gay couple, basically. Like that's the best way I can describe it. And they're just like at each other's throats, but they also like support each other and they want to help and stuff like that. So I don't want to like give too much away about the story because I don't want to spoil it for you. But I would think you'll enjoy it, given that we'll talk about
Yeah,
Ant-Man in just a minute. But I think it's one of the better stories, to be honest.
yeah.
So yeah,
I want to play it. It's just where am I going to fit this
yeah,
in?
yeah, exactly. And like I said, I spent 45 hours on it, so it's not a short game
I,
either.
I I know that should sound appealing, but it doesn't. The fact it's for you, and that's not a knock against the game. I'm sure it
Yeah,
feels 45 hours great,
hmm,
but in this period where there's just so much to play and so
yeah,
much coming out, it's sort of like, okay, I can play that, or I can play like a little 6 hour indie game or
yeah,
something. Yeah, that's the issue. Is if we get like last year, there were periods when nothing came out for
yeah,
months. Then I can imagine myself sitting down and playing because I actually saw on Twitter this morning like one of the deals things I follow, Wario64,
yeah,
was tweeting it's like $30.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So what I would do, especially now since you have an updated computer as well, wait for the summer Steam sale and probably just get it then. And I imagine the season pass will be on sale at that point if that's something you'd want to. But I would just say wait till then at this point, because yeah, after summer I think we'll have a little bit of a break before even more games come out.
I
But
like to think so. I don't think they're going to let us.
that's true. It is pretty relentless this year already. Um, but I guess sorry, I just realized I haven't even talked about the game itself yet. I've been building up to the game now. Okay. So I guess this is an interesting game because it combines a bunch of different things where, okay, so on a day to day basis, you're kind of exploring this area where you're all housed, and you can explore the outside area too, just kind of like a over the shoulder camera, third person, almost like an exploring type of game. But there's all kinds of like secret pathways to unlock for more powers and upgrades and all that kind of stuff. But as far as the gameplay itself goes, you basically go on a mission every single day. And then before and after the mission, you get to do story stuff, and then it basically resets every single day. So that's why I think I was telling you this game is pretty easy to play in the sense that it's like very easy to drop in, drop out. You can knock out like an in-game day in maybe 30, 40 minutes, and then
Mm.
pick it up again the next day if you wanted to, type of thing. Which I think that's just it's good for that. So as far as the combat itself goes, generally speaking, every battle you pick three heroes. More often than not, the character you create has to be one of them, but not always. And then the other two, usually you'll pick whichever superheroes you want that you have, and you get more and more as the game goes on. And then the battle is like, I guess it's like a tactics strategy type of game because yeah, XCOM was the game that they made before, which I never played the XCOM games, but like they always seemed fun as well. And I guess now that I like this game, I might go back and check those out because I think those are a couple years old now at this point. They're probably on sale. But yeah, you pick your heroes and you basically it's going to sound weird to explain this game, but maybe if you've played these types of games, you've seen this before. You have like a deck building part of the game where outside of the battle, you can like upgrade cards and switch them out for whatever attacks you want.
Mm.
And then in the game, it's just like randomly drawn amongst your heroes. And then basically, more often than not, you either have to kill the enemies or maybe secure some little package before they kill it. But that's for the most part it. And you kind of just like go back and forth with certain amounts of turns and cards and things like that. Okay, but now here's the next interesting layer to describe the gameplay is it's like the intricacies of stringing together the different attacks and how they play off each other is where the strategy comes in because they can
Hmm.
kind of like build on each other a little bit. But then on the battlefield itself, there's also stuff where you can like knock people into other enemies and it almost turns into like a pinball game where you're like bouncing people off of each other as well.
Yeah,
So like does that sound like a game you've played before with the like you know what I
yeah.
mean?
So like that triangle strategy game I played last year.
Yeah.
If you hit someone and there's someone on the other side of them, they hit them as well, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this game, I guess because there's so many different combinations of like not just your own attacks, but then chaining your partner's attacks, but then also what I just described, there are times where you can knock out like entire waves in one turn. Like I even, not that I give a shit about achievements or anything, but one of the achievements I got was you won a mission on your first turn because I stringed it together so well that there was no more enemies left and it just
Mm.
ended like on the first turn. So like it was fun trying to figure out ways to do that for these
Yeah.
battles. It didn't happen often because it happened more on the easier battles, but it can happen if you do it well enough and you upgrade and stuff like that. So in addition to the main story, like I said, there is a season pass. 2 out of the 4 packs are out right now, so there's still 2 more coming. But what it adds is a new character you can play as each time, as well as story for that character, and then like extra cards and cosmetics and stuff like that. So far the DLC has been Venom and Deadpool,
Yeah.
and then I think they're going to be adding Storm and Morbius. And I don't know if the Morbius edition was because of the recent movie.
If they were lining it up and then they went, oh, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, I we'll see what happens with that one. But even with the Deadpool character in the game, he's typical Deadpool, just joking and like breaking
Mm.
forth all type of stuff. So they did a good job with that. Not just with the DLC, but all the characters that they added. And I guess really in general, yes, the gameplay was super fun, but the story, like I said, was just really engaging. I think it's once again, we're about to talk about Ant-Man in just a second, but I know we've talked a few times about later, more recent Marvel movies. They're like kind of the same over and over, and you get like numb to it a little bit. And maybe that's why this story just like stuck out so much because I thought it was not just well done on its own right, but like in contrast to some of that, I think it's just leaps and bounds better
Yeah.
personally. Um, but yeah, so this game, complete surprise for me. I was not expecting to play it, especially this kind of game, but I put 45 hours into it. I frankly could probably keep playing with like more because you can still do side missions and stuff. Um, but there's DLC still to come, which I'll be playing whenever that comes out later this year. Yeah, definitely a huge thumbs up. Especially,
Yeah.
I'm like still in shock that I like this game because never in a million years would I have thought I would play a game like this.
There you go. You're hooked now.
I know. So I'm even though XCOM is a couple years old, it's this like I said, it's the same developer. I think it always goes on sale, one of the Steam
Yeah.
sales for like $5-6. So I'll probably check it out at some point later this year. But if there's any other games anyone can think of that are in this style, let me know because I know there's like tactics games and strategy games and turn-based, but I don't know how many are like this specific one that combines so many
Well,
things together.
there was the Halo, not Halo, Gears of War. They did a tactics style
Mm,
game as well.
that's right, they did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a few out there, but yeah, I hope we get another one of these to be honest. But given that it was a commercial flop per the
Yeah.
CEO of the company, I'm gonna assume that's a no.
Yeah.
But I am curious to see maybe if they could do the same kind of game, but I don't know, a different property or something like that. I'd be
DC.
interested. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do a TC version. I mean, shit, I'd take it. It sounds great. If they can do a
Yeah.
good story, why not? But yeah, so big thumbs up, and I'll turn it over
Okay.
to you.
Well, you saw this as well. We both watched Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
I think for the
And
first time ever, I'll just say really quick, I watched a Marvel movie before you did.
yeah, which
I
I always try to see like day of
yeah,
coming out, and not so much that. I mean, I used to love like the Marvel movies, like leading up to Endgame and
yeah,
stuff,
uh-huh,
and I carried on that tradition of seeing them pretty much opening night
yeah,
up until like the last two or three.
hmm
Mainly because I didn't want to get spoiled. I'd got kind of bored of the MCU,
yeah,
but you know what it's like if you don't see it normally, like day of. But it was like I think it was when Wakanda Forever came out.
hmm
I said to you, I haven't seen anyone speaking about it, like in
yeah,
person, online, nothing.
right,
And the same thing happened with Ant Man and the Wasp. Like I saw it like 3 or 4 days after it came out,
Hmm.
But leading up to it and after it, I have not seen any like news articles like this is what that post credit scene means and
Right. Same
stuff
here.
like that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because either the people who publish those articles finally get the idea that they don't want to be spoiled if they don't see it within the first 24 hours, or B, that they just don't give a shit anymore and it's not worth covering.
Yeah, I just feel like there's not, and it's crazy because you look at the box office results and these movies are still pulling like $1 billion.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
when I go into work, like not as many people are talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, as I've said before, I normally will wait weeks, if not months, to see them. But for Ant-Man, I happen to be just free that day, and I'm like, you know what? I'll spend $10. I'll go get a movie, drink a beer, because like the theater I'll go to, that you can drink and have food at your seat. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll get a beer, watch Ant-Man. Why not? And I saw it in 3D as well, which I hadn't
There you
done in
go.
like a decade.
Now, uh, as soon as you watch this, you messaged me,
Yeah.
and I think this has been our main takeaway is the fact it's like what is it like 47% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, which is like the worst, if not, or second to worst performing MCU
Yeah,
movie, I guess, or not performing, like rating, I guess. Yeah,
I don't think it's that bad.
exactly. Yes,
I don't think this movie's great or anything.
sure.
It's okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
But what I find weird is that this is only the second ever Rotten one.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was talking to my wife afterwards and I was like, it was fine. I was like, but I didn't like Black Widow I thought was pretty bad.
Hmm.
Like that deserved a worse rating than this. Like Wakanda
Hmm.
Forever just kind of felt pointless overall.
Sure.
Um
Eternals was the other one, right?
yeah, Eternals I thought that was okay. That's sort of like for
Mm.
me on the same level as like where Ant Man is.
Yeah.
Um and I couldn't quite understand where the vitriol for this movie was coming from.
I don't get it either. Like, I don't know if it's like they thought, because this is the kickoff of this next phase, and I don't know if people were like, okay, this is gonna be a nice, not reset, obviously, but like, here's the next phase. We can do something a little bit different, and then maybe they didn't, and people just got pissed. I guess maybe.
Well, that was it. I couldn't understand it, so I like went on Reddit and like read the movie thread.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, a big complaint seemed to be that the trailer was misleading, and I kind of agree with this because in the trailer they kind of paint it as if Scott makes a deal with Kang that Kang can send him back in time and he can spend the years he missed with his daughter again.
Okay.
And I'm like, and everyone was like, that was actually a better premise than what actually happened.
Okay.
I could
I
agree to
suppose.
that.
All right. Fair.
Um, other people were complaining that because Kang's meant to be the big bad going forward, like the new Thanos,
Yeah.
and considering that just Ant Man's fighting him here doesn't make him seem that imposing.
Yeah, and I don't know if because I did think about that afterwards as well, and I don't know if the thought was that in that setting he's not as powerful yet as he should be, and so that's why Ant-Man can
Yeah,
maybe overpower him, I guess. But
I mean, sort of imagine if Thanos had just fought, I don't know, like Peter Quill in the first Guardians movie
yeah,
before like Endgame, where it's like
mhm,
20 heroes fighting him, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, again, I get it, but like while I was watching this movie, I wasn't thinking that.
yeah. A lot of these reviewers are coming at it from like it's fine if you have a better version of that story, but that's not what it is. Just judge
Yeah,
it for what it is, I guess.
yeah. And another complaint I saw, which I can agree with, again, is no one. It sounds like a spoiler, but no one of consequence dies. It's a very
Um,
safe movie,
yeah, that's true.
and like you can tell, Michael Douglas doesn't know what the fuck's going on while he's filming this movie.
Dude, he's just walking around in front of green screens at this point, probably
Yeah.
throwing shit. Who
They're just
knows?
like, Michael, walk over there, yell ants every other third word, and we're calling it
Yeah,
a day. It's
here's a
like, I
couple
miss my
million.
ants. Ants.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Where yeah, like I said, it's not better than any of the recent movies, but I don't
No,
think it's that much worse. It was, yeah. While watching it, I think to what you were saying, was I smiling about things happening? Sure, like drinking a beer, having a good time. I wasn't like actively angry about this movie while I was
no,
watching it. But then, yeah, afterwards, if I think about it, sure, maybe I could come up with a different plot line. But it was, to your point, it was just fine. The one thing I will say is like I mentioned, I did watch it in 3D, and I know you said like Avatar is incredible in 3D, and I'm sure it is, but
yeah.
this does not seem like a movie that was made for 3D. And
No, this didn't look like a movie that was made for 2Ds either. They were just filming this on a green screen the
pretty
entire time.
much, exactly.
I
But
don't know if
like,
it's green screen or that weird thing they use for the Mandalorian now.
oh,
Have you
the
seen?
volume, I think it's called. Yeah,
Yeah, where it's like the screen is playing behind them.
exactly. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be. But yeah, this movie was not worth 3D, and I've reaffirmed, just on a tangent for a second, reaffirmed the fact that 3D for the most part is worthless, and I don't need it in movies. So, I mean, it was only like $2 more because I saw like a matinee. I'm like, whatever, fine. I'll try it out. And I didn't get like sick or anything. It's just it was pointless, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's not needed. So, just
But
side
this
note.
is the kind of movie, based on the fact it's in the quantum realm,
Hmm.
that should be awesome in 3D.
I would think so. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, things popped a little bit, but it wasn't. Yeah, they just didn't take advantage of it. It was just like,
no,
I mean, I think they're all in 3D just by default at this point. Like post
yeah.
processing is what it seems like. They just do all of these in 3D. But yeah, they don't seem meant for
They
3D.
probably just run it for a machine.
Probably at this rate.
Yeah,
But yeah, as far as the movie goes, yeah, Kang. I will say Jonathan Majors, I really like as an actor.
he
Like,
is awesome. He is
yeah,
awesome.
because he was.
He's got that old school of just commanding a presence when he's on
Yeah,
screen.
exactly. Like he was really good in Lovecraft Country because he was in that HBO series, and then he was also in Spike Lee's last movie, The Five Bloods. It was actually Chadwick Boseman's one of his last movies. Funny enough, he was in that movie as well. But yeah, Jonathan Majors is a great actor, and I will say I am excited to see more of him as Kang.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know though because I don't want to spoil this movie again.
mhm.
But we saw other versions of Kang at points,
Yeah.
and it seemed a little ridiculous to me.
Like in what way? I mean, it's a ridiculous premise to begin with, I
Like
guess.
hammy as hell.
Oh, but would you have? Okay, I would rather have that, and then they play into it and make it really ridiculous than just more
Yeah,
run of the mill shit. So if
yeah,
this is the beginning of that, I'm all in.
yeah. No, it
uh,
was like
yeah.
it just came across as like a little silly considering like the villain's like meant to be very threatening and serious.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know in the comics, Kang, I haven't read too many of his stuff that he was in from however many years ago, so I don't know if that is the intent, and he's just that kind of character. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really can't say anything that was horribly
Yeah,
that bad. Like I'm
I
trying to
think
think if there was anything that was just like outright bad. And
this is what's weird though. Is like I think me and you for about 2 years now have been talking to each other again. Yeah, the
Mhm.
MCU just is a bit boring.
Yeah,
Like at the moment, it's very boring, and like we hated like She-Hulk,
sure.
right? That was awful, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that one just felt insulting to my time, right?
I could
But
understand that. Yeah.
this was it great? No. Was it awful? No. It doesn't seem worth the anger and vitriol that's being thrown towards it.
Yeah, I
But
don't think so.
it's not worthy of a lot of praise. This is just such a middle of the road movie that I'm like, eh,
Yeah, I think at this point, and maybe I mentioned this when we talked about like Black Panther or whatever last time, but at this point, the MCU to me is just a nerd's version of a soap opera.
yeah,
And every movie and or limited series whatever is an episode or at least a mini arc of the overall picture, and I
yeah,
think it's fine. if you still like the overall picture, but particular arcs, you're like, I could take it, leave it, whatever. And that's fine because at the end of the day, all the toys go back in the toy box at the end and they still play nice with each other into the next episode. Like, yeah, you have this week the butler might have done it or
Yeah,
someone's sister may have died or whatever. But it's still the overarching like soap opera. To me, it's just each movie to me is like a very expensive soap opera episode
yeah.
where it's just pushing the story forward. At some point people are going to jump off. Like there's been soap operas literally running for 30 plus years and at some point people just stop watching and maybe in 15 years we'll come back to it and go like, man, I'm going to get back into this now.
Well,
That's how I look at it.
I've said to you, like, my fear is if I have a child one day and they turn to me and say, I want to watch the MCU from the beginning.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I'm just like, for me, I don't have to go back and watch from Iron Man. I've seen them all.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to keep up with at this point. You just watch the stuff as it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if I had a kid who was like, I want to watch from the very beginning, I'm going to be like, at this point as well, because you're like, I've also got to watch WandaVision again and She-Hulk and
Yeah, you have to. You're
Falcon and the Winter
obligated.
Soldier. Yeah.
Well, but okay, I guess on that note, do you want to see the MCU have a finite end at some point?
I think if anything, Endgame was where you were going to do it,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
right? And that would have. I feel like if they had come out after, which they're not going to do, and I wouldn't have expected them to because it's unrealistic, right? If they had come out and said, you know what, after Endgame, we're going to go back to the old style where you have like your X-Men movies, your Spider-Man movies, and nothing's connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would have had people complain and whatnot, but like, I think, or if they'd said like we're going to like reboot the universe or something like that,
Sure.
I think overall it would have been better, but I don't think the public would have accepted it.
Well, funny enough, it's interesting to see it, especially with the DC side of things, because in the comic side of things, they have rebooted universes multiple times. Like
Yeah,
Marvel has rebooted their comics universe at least a couple of times. What was the I forget what the event was called, but they've done it. But on the DC side, they had something called Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was the biggest like reset where there were characters prior to that in DC who still haven't come back because they truly killed them off in that event and then they restarted it. And then funny enough, in the last like 20 years, they've also rebooted it like 3 more times because they can't make up their fucking minds. And then obviously James Gunn on DC it's funny now to see like that mentality come to the movie side because that's what
yeah.
James Gunn is doing. He's rebooting it, but apparently if the Flash is still gonna like somehow tie that in because like Ben Affleck was in that trailer for it too.
Yeah, I don't think they're 100% yet sure. Like, what's even happening?
Right.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Exactly. So, but it is to your point though. If they did that on the Marvel side, you could do it. It's been done before in a comic sense, and we're seeing it on the DC for the movie side sort of sense. Yeah, I don't know. I think with me, I'm still probably going to watch them. I think I have the same stance where I'll watch them more often than not. I'll just wait for it to come to streaming. But if I happen to be free for a weekend, I guess I'll go
Yeah.
check one out. But yeah,
I
yeah,
still enjoy them somewhat. I'm not angry when I left the theatre that I spent
right.
2 hours doing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't keep going.
Yeah, if they were that bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
no, for me, more than the movie itself, like we haven't really said much about the movie. The
that's
movie's
true.
okay.
Yeah.
The movie's okay. It's
Yeah.
very hard to talk about this movie because not a lot really happens.
Hmm.
It is very much one of those self-contained. I guess like a lot of comics are like this, like like one issue stories
Hmm.
where it's like what a wacky adventure, and at the end of it, they're pretty much where they were at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like it literally is like that. It's like starts with him in the real world, walking
Hmm.
down the street. Oh no, I go into a wacky world, and then it's like literally at the end of the movie, he's like, "What a wacky adventure!" I'm back where I was. It's very much like a kids' TV show
Hmm.
type narrative
Yeah.
where, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like it's fun. How can you not like Paul Rudd? Like
He's still great. It's still Paul
Paul
Rudd.
Rudd is like the most
the part
likable guy in the world.
the part where a bajillion of them like multiply, and then one version of I guess I don't want to spoil it, but like
Yeah,
I think you know what I'm talking about. One
yeah,
version of him is there, not like the rest.
yeah.
That part cracked me up.
Yeah, I do. I like Paul Rudd. He's just charming.
He's great.
I
Yeah.
don't know why it is that that man got so much charisma and
He's
likability, but I don't. I seriously think he could stop any fight just by going, "Hey guys, calm down, come on."
you should watch him in one of his first feature. I think his actual first feature film movie. Do you know what it is?
No, I know he was in like Clueless and
Well, yeah, he was in that, but it was either I believe it was right before that, or right around the same time.
Romeo and
It
Juliet.
Halloween 6.
Oh, okay,
The Curse of Michael Myers. What a
okay.
shithole of
No,
a
I knew he
movie.
was in like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, so it's just funny to see him in that. Yeah, and as far as other interesting things, I guess about the movie, Bill Murray is in it, which I like almost forgot until
We
that happened.
guessed before we saw this what his scene would be like, and we were
Uh,
both exactly right.
I mean, it's what are you gonna do with a guy like that?
Yeah,
Why not?
he's Bill Murray in this.
Pretty much, exactly. Modoc. Apparently, that has also gotten some shit online for the person who
Yeah,
is Modoc and how he came to
I
be.
didn't think that was very funny. I'm going to be honest. They kept trying to make it really hilarious, but apparently
Mhm.
this movie was written by someone who like wrote Rick and Morty,
All right, makes
and
sense.
that seemed, from what little I've seen of Rick and Morty, very Rick and Morty humor that I didn't really find that funny.
It was just so gross looking, and I mean, I guess that's the
That,
point.
that
But
wasn't what I found not funny. It was more the jokes around it.
yeah, sure, sure,
I was just like, okay, but the problem was they kept hammering the joke in as well. I'm like, it wasn't because it
exactly.
wasn't funny the first time, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, so it was just weird. I think I don't. I mean, Modoc as a character, I think is always fun to see, like in the old X-Men cartoons and stuff. But like, yeah, this one, it was just weird, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, most of the time they're in the quantum realm, just hanging around.
yeah.
Oh, that whole like what's the best word? Like indigenous tribe, I guess I'll call them in the quantum realm. That like group of people, they were like completely pointless. I will say. I don't really
They
know.
were a poor man's version of the resistance group from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess they needed something to like defend or whatever, but it just
They needed
I
a
almost
cause to get
forgot.
behind because his daughter, at the beginning of the movie, gets arrested for helping a homeless camp. So she's like very socially aware. And
Yeah.
then, of course, they get transported to the quantum realm, and her and her father need something they can bond over. So, hey, what's like homeless people? Resistance fighters.
And she like tries to get behind them, and but I think even Paul Rudd was like, what if they're like homicidal maniacs or something?
Yeah,
Like, why would we want to help them?
yeah,
Like, we don't know anything about them.
yeah.
I was like, all right, that's kind of funny actually. um yeah, it was. I don't know what else to say about it. Like,
I'd give it a thumbs up. I would. I don't think it's a bad movie.
yeah.
I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I think
Mhm.
it's okay to good.
Yeah, I would say like if you happen to get maybe cheap tickets and it's still in theaters, go see it. Like I don't think you have to go see this movie,
No.
but if you're looking for something fun to watch and you know, you can do that or obviously they all come to Disney Plus now, so wait 2 months and it'll just be on there and throw it on at this point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is funny though. Just I guess I'll say one more time. Like I know for the longest time, television has started turning into movies, especially with like Mandalorian and all these other crazy shows, and it's getting to that quality. I would almost argue that a lot of movies are almost going the other way now. Like I was saying, where movies are now just becoming big episodic television, just on
Yeah.
movie quality at this point.
Yeah.
So
I've said that for a while about the MCU. It's just you got to treat it as a big TV show.
yeah, which yeah, to your point, I'm still having a generally good time. I can't say I'm hating anything, so I'll still check them out, but I definitely won't be in a rush.
Oh, how you forget about She-Hulk.
Shush, 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 shush. We don't talk about that one. Shush, shush, shush. But yeah, so if you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, or if you've played Midnight Suns and sunk in an entire work week into it like I have, let us know what you think of them. And we'll be back next week for the next round where we talk about even more of the games that I still have on my backlog.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you then. Cool. Take it
All right.
easy.